Remember, this entire manga and every manga on this channel is hand-drawn by myself, and now you too can learn exactly how to make your own viral Dragon Ball mangas at www.makemanga.com, where you can learn directly from me. My mangas have got me on TV, on newspapers, and even earned me over $60,000 a month on Patreon alone. And now, you can click the link in the description and pinned comment of this video and do it yourself. You only need to see the website to see just how many thousands of you are taking this opportunity right now. And don't forget also, the next video to this Ultra Vegito series has already been made and is live now on my Patreon right now for over 4,500 of you incredible fans to watch after this. Again, links are in the pinned comment and description. Enjoy.
I'm coming, Luciv!
So our story continues with Nephilim Vegito, finally letting loose, blasting through the battlefield with a crazed and maniacal face, looking more monster than man as he commits to putting his clone self through more pain than he had ever experienced, all in an effort to take his 10 time rings away unscathed. But as he would do this, still reeling from the God-Killer's last attack, Luciv would be covered in rubble, attempting to free himself, and unfortunately, none the wiser.
What? Already?
That is until with one eye open, he would finally realize what he was in for, seeing and hearing in the distance a giant dark purple aura increasing in size and screaming all the way down as it would get closer.
He really thinks it will be that simple? Has he forgotten who I am?
But exploding immediately out of his rocky shackles, a bulked-up body devil in a fury would not just stand for his underestimation. Watching Vegito pile drive through towards him as the devil would comment,
"Come then, come and see what hell awaits you here, CALLMEARJ!"
As Luciv Vegito immediately would then channel his inner Prince of All Saiyans and would pull back his arms and begin powering up a certain signature ball of energy, clearly infused with his own demonic powers, as black lightning would spew in all directions from its very generation. As with his teeth gritted, Luciv would comment,
"Keep getting closer. I'll show you what happens when you think you can rush in at the devil himself. Gun!"
As just like that, with complete confidence in himself, the current devil would then finally unleash and fire off his powerful beam, sending the energy blast soaring across the ground, reaching Vegito's aura immediately.
Not bad, but you just gave me an idea. An attack I can be sure won't kill you.
But mysteriously, the God-Killer, seeing this, would just smile, instead plotting something instantly in the moment. As in a flash pressing on the brakes, Vegito would then come to an abrupt stop, skidding across the ground as he would force his momentum to stop. And with his feet now firmly planted within the floor, he would just stand facing the incoming Gallic gun, his body increasingly becoming dwarfed under its presence until...
Let's see how strong this really is.
As now raising his hand up, he would aim it directly towards the beam as if he could actually absorb it. But of course, that wouldn't be possible. But instead, in a surprise turn of events, like freezing time itself, Lucif's beam would instantly just stop dead in its track, no longer moving an inch.
What? How is he doing this?
Leaving the current devil stunned, near speechless and gobsmacked at how he truly, in the literal sense, was being made powerless.
Sorry, but when the difference between us is this large, it's hard to not take charge of my own abilities.
As giving off a cocky grin, the God Killer would then swiftly turn his earlier outreached hand, like pulling on puppet strings. And just like that, like a god bending elements, the Gallic gun, first fired by Lucif, would go under his command, instantly turning tail and going back where it came from.
No! Wait!
As Lucif Vegito would just watch as on top of him, his own blast would betray him, casting a shadow over him as it would fall with force before he would let out one final scream, and in a typical gigantic explosion, Vegeta's signature move would make contact and erupt mercilessly.
His energy is still intact, but it's weakening. I can feel it, Lucif!
As all a pleased Vegito could do is smile, completely satisfied with his work, and his plan seemingly going off without a hitch. And Lucif would indeed still be alive, as within the thick smoke of the destruction, a shadow would appear, before a certain Saiyan's foot would start emerging. But in the end, it may not have just been one foot, as blasting out of the smoke at rapid speed, so fast we wouldn't be able to make out their appearance, 4 figures would shoot out.
Oh, seems you haven't given up yet. You really are another me.
As the God Killer, excited by the futile attempts to resist, would only relish in their actions.
You are the failure who forsake Lucif's power. You are the Vegito that never reached your potential. The only gap here is between what you and I achieved, fool.
As finally revealing themselves, 4 clones of the current devil would be seen running at super speed in tandem, each as angry as the last and all ready to turn the tide of battle. And in a nightmare scene for most, as the God Killer would stand poised still, incoming would be all 4 Lucifs now flying towards him, like ghosts of the past coming to confront him.
Ooh, this should give me a good stretch. Have at it, boys.
But stunningly without any care at all, even whistling away with his eyes closed, Vegito would just begin cracking his back, stretching his arms out as if getting ready for bed, all while Lucif's fist was only nanoseconds away from making contact. But the reality of the situation would be that Vegito would be far too fast and skilled to be hit, instead turning the entire fiasco back on itself, as dodging quickly and countering with a punch of his own, the God Killer would swiftly move in and land a blow straight onto the first devil's face, leaving the rest in a frenzy of shock. Before then instantly placing his angel-feathered arm onto the ground and...
Don't think I left the rest of you out!
Transitioning to a handstand, Vegito would then begin violently rotating his legs abnormally, like he were doing a breakdance. The maneuver creating a makeshift hurricane of assault, as his whole body would rotate at insane speeds, striking all 4 elusive clones violently at once, sending them all flying away bewildered. All while elegantly, now finished, the God Killer would then flip and land back on his feet.
4 clones just means 4 times the damage you're suffering, and 4 times the energy you're expending to heal. Thanks for making my job easier, clown.
But on sight of Vegito's smirk, it would appear Lucif's plans were only helping Vegito. And with that, in a split second, powerhousing upwards, Vegito would then fly towards the still careering away devils. Screaming out as he would lock on to the first, getting closer and closer until... grabbing tightly onto his flailing leg and... with a bone-chilling roar, he would begin rotating his body yet again mid-air, still with Lucif's leg in hand until... with one vicious, well-placed and timed throw, he would toss the clone straight into the 2 others for a violent collision, as 3 of the 4 clones would scream out in agony and loss of control. The giant mass of 3 now falling head first to the ground, and as if on purpose, directly on top of the remaining final clone. Ultimately suffering the same fate as crashing straight onto him for a collision on the ground, all 4 would now be together once again.
Come on then, heal up! I know that had to hurt.
As up above, the God Killer would keep careful watch of Lucif's next futile move, as from the smoke, shadows would emerge once again. But strangely, when we would get our first sight, it would appear as a hodgepodge of impossible limbs together. As in a horrifying mess of a scene, the very next we would see of Lucif now would be a giant abomination of a creature, with several heads, arms and tails slathering saliva all over, as the creature, barely able to talk, would just writhe in pain, with each of the 4 clones now forcibly fused back into each other under the hand of the God Killer. And as the monstrous figure would continue to groan, in the distance, Vegito would descend.
Back in one piece, huh? I like the new look. It suits you.
As not finished at all with the violence, despite the devil's current vulnerable position, like a hyena, Vegito would pounce instantly for more. Launching his leg with full force like a football player, slamming the oversized Lucif like he were nothing sending their multiple voices screaming as they would immediately begin to ascend yet again. And in the next scene, this would be displayed perfectly, as the God Killer would remain on the ground while Lucif would struggle away up in the sky. But Vegito, clenching his fist, would seem to have a reason for remaining below.
Time to see how durable you really are.
As now placing his arm out into the air, aimed at Lucif, but strangely, unlike as if he were about to blast a standard beam, it was as if he were about to summon something out of the ordinary. Before, with a confident smile, the God Killer would just whisper out,
Nimbus Thunder!
As just like that, on his command, raining down from the sector's skybox, a gigantic stalk of dark, black thunder would explode onto the ground, swallowing Lucif Vegito within it, frying his damaged body to no end. And in the next panel, this would be seen in detail, as his entire deformed body would begin flashing black and white non-stop, like in an X-ray. Every head on his body screaming in unison, a blood-curdling scream for what felt like hours. But alas, after only a few seconds, the Black Thunder would vanish, and with it, Lucif Vegito would be put out of his misery, beginning to ultimately drop down, before ultimately crash landing on the ground without a sound. As now laying flat on his back in a crater caused by his own weight and fall, the current devil, once feared, would appear damaged completely.
The rings, they aren't doing anything. They can't.
And as we zoom closer and peer in at him hyperventilating from the barrage of damage he had faced, it would seem finally realization of his defeat was dawning. As using what little left of his energy to stumble back up, he would get onto one knee.
You fool! You think you've won, but if you insist on doing this, then I'll just kill myself! I'll remove these time rings so no one can have them!
But as soon as this novel idea would come to the devil, right behind him, the God Killer, like a shadow, would instantly be behind. As with a sadistic grin, Vegito would let out,
I was wondering when you'd think about that. But if you think I'll be leaving you anytime soon to do that, you've been severely mistaken. Time to continue this beatdown, whether you like it or not.
As immediately then raising his legs straight up, an axe kick would be poised and ready to slaughter what's left of Lucif's will.
What are you? You are pure evil!
Leaving a shocked Lucif to just stare in disbelief, as with no way out, the devil had finally met the one even more ruthless than him.
Jiren!
But back with Archangel Goku, the shocks would continue, as right in front of him, the legendary former Pride Trooper had finally returned out of nowhere.
Jiren, wait!
He's way stronger than you think! As trying his best to save his friend, Goku would call out, as Jiren would confidently stride forward to the Omni King. But Jiren, unconcerned,
remaining stoic in appearance, would just respond, "Don't worry about me, Son Goku. Just bring out the one called Vegito." Jiren! That overconfident clown must have no idea who he's dealing with. It's just like at the Tournament of Power.
Leaving a salty Vegeta to be in disbelief of the former destroyer's confidence.
Jiren? Tournament of Power? Who is this guy?
As a confused godkiller, Trunks would have no clue who this warrior was, or why there was so much subconscious respect from both his prideful father and Goku.
Vegito, seems you must not know.
As a surprisingly damaged and annoyed Lucif would then begin to get back off the ground.
Before, with a signature chuckle, he would confirm, "He's not with us anymore. I sent him down personally to the demon realm a long while ago. He's probably dead already, if my sources are correct. But don't worry, if he is indeed alive, he could be joining us sooner than you think."
Demon Realm? This information finally breaking his emotional slur, but only briefly, as coldly he would respond,
If that's true, then I was correct. You are indeed the one called Lucif. And that means that Vegito will return here. I know him better than most. So you can count on that warrior still being alive, demon.
Oh, you know my name. Flattered that even strange grey aliens such as yourself know of my status. Though unfortunately, I can't say I know of you, friend.
as a smirking Lucif, comfortably folding his arms, would soon express curiosity over the Pride Trooper. But lifting his fist in front of him clenched, the warrior would respond,
Jiren. Jiren the Grey. A former god of destruction turned god killer. Killer of Belmont. And that is how I know of you. Because I too have access to the power of a devil. Your power.
Oh, for the love of course there had to be another one of you. Is there anyone left who hasn't been powered up by me? Never has there been a generation with more than one god killer. And even then, I thought it were only these Saiyans who could properly manifest my power. But I guess I stand corrected.
and just as Lucif would say this, coming down from the sky nonchalantly next to Jiren would be one of these so-called other god killers. As Trunks with a warm smile would outstretch his hand saying, Hey there, looks like you're on our side, but we've not met yet. My name is Trunks. I'm from the future and... But Jiren, not caring one bit for introductions with another Saiyan, would immediately focus back on the task at hand, storming ahead with powerful speed directly towards Lucif. But even as the giant Jiren would rush forward with his intimidating presence, the Omni King in the distance would remain arms folded.
This one wants to attack alone. What confidence!
Before finally unfolding his arms and with a smirk readying himself. Jiren, now covered in his classic fiery red aura, seconds from impact. As just like that, colliding instantly by their hands, Jiren and Lucif would be right at each other's faces. A cold stare from the Grey Warrior, as Lucif, beaming away with a smile, would comment,
Now I feel it. Yes, this is indeed only the kind of power I could be enhancing.
Just like that, with a roar, both imposing their wills and increasing their power levels, a ravenous field of aura and energy would envelop them. Starting off relatively small, before moment by moment increasing and increasing in size until, in a giant explosion, this uncontrolled release of power would reach its boiling point, erupting ravenously all over the battlefield in a nuke-like explosion, causing powerful bolts of black thunder to suddenly appear, exploding from the sky and onto the ground. Whoa! This guy! I don't believe it! But he's really on par with Lucif! Who the hell is he? If only I'd met him in my timeline! As Trunks, just staring at the unbelievable display of power, would just be left open-mouthed. But being shaken up from the force of their collision, Archangel Goku would finally start getting up. His face not able to help crack a smile, as with pride, he'd look on at Jiren and remark, "Looks like he's not been slacking off on his training at all. I guess we should have known when we didn't need to save Universe 11 at all. He took on every Demon Emperor on his own. That's all the info we should have needed. Man, I can't wait to fight you again after this is all done, Jiren." As soon, we would rejoin the two in battle, and Jiren would already be taking the Omni King by surprise, appearing behind him before... With full force, the equally sized muscular Jiren would land a punishing fist straight onto Lucif's face, concaving the Omni King's cheek inwards, as even he would be surprised by what he was dealing with.
Sorry, it won't be that easy.
But only for the former devil to reclaim his authority, responding with a front kick back. Before swirling energy mysteriously around his arm, he would plot his next attack and... in a wave of pure demonic energy, Jiren's shocked face would be completely overcome and enveloped. The beam seemingly turning anything and everything in its path into mere dust. That is, until a truly frightening demon caricature would find itself shadowy right behind Lucif. At first, even undetected by him, until a shock realization, his body freezing from the presence of Jiren of all people. Leaving the former destroyer turned godkiller to then effortlessly slam the Omni King away with a backhand. The strike once again, despite appearing as nothing to Jiren, would still send the Omni King far and away.
Interesting.
But not long after, Lucif would regain himself, again bleeding from the mouth, and now with a visible vein on his forehead, his patience would now be tested, as he would mutter,
How interesting you never came on my radar. I'm starting to think that Angel recommended the wrong mortal after all. Jiren, I will remember your name. Perhaps in my new world, I will bring you back as my personal god.
But Jiren, cracking his knuckles, would appear far from flattered, as he would just respond, Those words mean nothing. If you lived up to your name, perhaps they would. But I can sense you are weaker, Lucif. Something doesn't seem to be right with you. Perhaps all of us taking a part of your energy for ourselves has finally taken its toll.
How very observant, Jiren.
But Lucif's response, though seemingly agreeing, would come with a sinister smirk, as he would continue,
You're right. I'm not myself. I must admit, I've been using a large portion of my power to facilitate another matter. One you aren't aware of.
Before with a close-up of his grin, he would finish,
But I am happy to confirm, you all will see it right now.
As suddenly, in a mix of confusion over Lucif's words, from above, the soaring sound of something falling down would be heard as well. As crashing instantly in front of Jiren would be a random bolt of black lightning, surprising the God-Killer mid-knuckle crack. What the? But he wouldn't be alone, as lightning would also be striking all over, so much to the extent even Vegeta would be quick to dodge next. As the Saiyan Prince would then wonder, More of these? Did their damn clash from earlier have this much of an aftermath? How the hell did Jiren get this strong, huh? No! It can't be! But completely breaking the calm reactions, Trunks, out of nowhere, would take things up to 100, as for some reason, staring up at the sky, his face would be full of complete fear and shock. But why, no one would know.
Well, looks like one of you has finally realized.
No one but Lucif, as only Lucif would seemingly understand the boy's reaction. His countenance truly sinister, as his eyes would dart around at the remaining warriors, hoping for a similar reaction. Huh? Trunks? What's got into you? As now Archangel Goku would wonder what all the fuss was about. Wait a minute! But even the oblivious Goku would find himself with a wandering eye upwards, slowly turning his head until... What? What is that? As finally, the Archangel too would look above and realize Trunks' reaction was not out of place at all.
Welcome all. The merger is finally complete.
As with a shock dramatic reveal, the sky would be completely destroyed. Never seen like this ever before, as finally, the source of all this black thunder and lightning would be witnessed, as what looks like an all-encompassing black hole would be swallowing up the entire mortal realm. The end of times had been activated, and with no sign of Vegito, the future of the UV series is now completely uncertain. But that was it for today's video, guys, and if you made it this far, leave me a hashtag merger in the comments down below and let me know just what the hell happens now. Or just find out what happens right now on my Patreon, where you can see the full next video, fully voice acted, soundtracked, and edited for you to enjoy with over 4,500 plus other fans, as well as getting access to 250 plus other fan mangas too. It's the deal of the century.